So we have some interesting news that has been announced regarding an influential knockout in Impact Wrestling, particularly the details of their contract possibly expiring in the near future. Now that knockout is none other than former Knockouts champion Taya Valkyrie, the longest reigning Knockouts champion in Impact Wrestling. It is being reported by PW Insider that Taya Valkyrie's Impact Wrestling contract is set to expire at the end of the year. Now, the deal is rumoured to be up at the end of December. Now, of course, this doesn't necessarily mean that she's leaving Impact Wrestling once her contract has expired at the end of the year. Obviously, they could always come to terms with a new deal, and they could obviously even be negotiating at this point, but it certainly is an interesting piece of news when you look at current storylines that Taya Valkyrie is involved in when it comes to Impact Wrestling and her future with the promotion now that we know that her contract is up at the end of next month. So what is Taya Valkyrie currently doing when it comes to Impact Wrestling on TV? Well, in recent weeks, of course, she's been involved in the Johnny Bravo storyline and Wrestle House, but recently she's been teaming with Rosemary as a fallout of that, and she is going to be involved in the Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament that starts tonight on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. So it's interesting now when you factor in that she could possibly be leaving the company next month. What does that have to do with the Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament? I'm assuming that if Taya Valkyrie does leave the promotion at the end of December, this says to me that Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie aren't going to win the Knockouts Tag Team Championship in that tournament. Now, obviously, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago there, things can change. Taya Valkyrie absolutely could sign a new deal with the company, and her and Rosemary could become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. However, the Tag Team Champions, the first Tag Team Champions to be crowned since the Knockouts Tag Team Championships returned to the company, are being crowned at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January of 2021. If Taya Valkyrie's contract expires at the end of December, she's not even going to be under contract by the time the Hard to Kill pay-per-view comes around and they crown the new Tag Team Champions. So again, it factors into what we're going to see on TV. So if she doesn't re-sign with the company, then we definitely know Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie aren't going to become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. We know for a fact that isn't going to happen. Now, also, you have to look at other storylines that she currently could be involved with. As I mentioned, she has been involved with the Johnny Bravo storyline about who attacked Johnny Bravo. We know that Johnny Bravo hasn't been killed off just yet. Tommy Dreamer is investigating the suspects as to who could be the person that was the trigger person behind the attack on Johnny Bravo during the wedding with Rosemary a couple of weeks ago on Impact Wrestling on Access TV. Now, we know the ties of Johnny Bravo to Taya Valkyrie. We know the relationship there. But if Taya Valkyrie is going to be leaving the company, then possibly we may have a spoiler as to the person that actually shot Johnny Bravo in the first place. This might be the perfect way to write Taya Valkyrie off of Impact Wrestling television if indeed she was the person who gunned down Johnny Bravo. You could have a situation where Taya Valkyrie is revealed to be the person that attacked Johnny Bravo and therefore she's sent to jail. It's a way to write Taya Valkyrie off of TV or something along those lines. We've seen recently on Impact Wrestling on Access TV that Tommy Dreamer has labelled Taya Valkyrie as one of the final 10 suspects in the Johnny Bravo case. Perhaps after whittling down more and more people that are innocent in this Johnny Bravo situation, maybe Tommy Dreamer reveals that Taya Valkyrie indeed was the one who attacked her best friend. I mentioned when I went through all of the people that could be considered suspects in the Johnny Bravo case that maybe Taya Valkyrie was the person that did attack Johnny Bravo. Maybe it's revealed that Taya Valkyrie was jealous. Maybe it's revealed that she was actually in love with Johnny Bravo this entire time. She was the one that was hesitant during the Wrestle House series to see Johnny Bravo and Rosemary get together. Maybe it's revealed that Taya Valkyrie was the one that's in love with Johnny Bravo, and it's kind of a situation where if I can't have you, then nobody can have you, and that's the reason why she gunned down Johnny Bravo in the first place. So maybe keep an eye on that. Maybe keep an eye on that because potentially this could be a way to write Taya Valkyrie off of television. But as I mentioned, of course Taya Valkyrie could easily re-sign with the company. Just because someone's contract is expiring and coming up doesn't mean that they're going to be leaving Impact Wrestling. It's mainly a case of them reassessing the options that are available to them, working out a better contract with Impact Wrestling. She absolutely could re-sign, and if she does re-sign with the company, I would say that she's probably likely to win the Knockouts Tag Team Championships with Rosemary. This all depends on what happens when it comes to Taya Valkyrie's contract with Impact Wrestling. you have to question whether this alliance we've seen between her and Rosemary in Impact Wrestling is going to be a long-term thing. Because the way I see it, yes, they're tag team partners now, and that's kind of been their bond due to the Johnny Bravo situation, the segments that we saw in Wrestle House of eventually them becoming friends, previously were enemies. I think eventually it would turn into a feud with Rosemary if indeed Taya Valkyrie's contract does expire at the end of the month and she does leave the company. I would think that they don't go that far in the Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament, and eventually she loses the match with Rosemary, and then they go on to feud, and that's the way to write Taya Valkyrie off of TV, as she's revealed to be the attacker behind Johnny Bravo, that situation, or something along those lines. I could see that happening now that we know that Taya Valkyrie's contract is expiring at the end of next month. You look at who they've got in the first round, Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary, their first round match is against none other than the Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo and her sidekick Kimber Lee. That's a pretty tough first round match. Deonna Purrazzo just won the Knockouts championship there, so it's no given that they're even going to get past the first round anyway. So previously, as I mentioned, I tipped Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary to win the whole Knockouts Tag Team Championship tournament and become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Now you have the question mark hanging up in the air. What's going on with Taya Valkyrie when it comes to a contract? Now that we know that her contract is up and expiring, it looks less and less likely that they would win that entire tournament. So if potentially she is leaving, maybe they aren't going to win the Knockouts Tag Team Championship, even though prior to finding out this news, I would have thought that Rosemary and Taya Valkyrie winning the Tag Team Championships was almost a bit of a slam dunk. So you have to factor that in too. So what about the options then? If Taya Valkyrie's contract is up and she does leave Impact Wrestling, what are her options? Well, obviously she's got ties to WWE. Now, she's never actually been in WWE. I believe she had a tryout back in sort of 2010, 2011 time, but didn't obviously get in, then worked on the Indies, Lucha Underground, AAA, and eventually came to Impact Wrestling. Has had major success in the last 2 or 3 years, really. And going back to Lucha Underground, of course, and in Mexico at AAA. But the ties to WWE that I'm talking about, of course, are with her husband, who, of course, is John Morrison, former Johnny Impact, John Hennigan, whatever you want to call him. Her husband is John Morrison. And WWE, they're always looking for talent. I think when you look at WWE's women's division at the moment, it is up there. I think it's level, to be honest, with Impact and their Knockouts division as the best women's division in the world, especially in North America. Maybe you could talk about Stardom and things like that, which probably do rival it. But certainly in North America, it's the Impact Knockouts division and the WWE women's division. They're neck and neck. They are very close. And that's a huge credit to Impact Wrestling. But WWE, their women's division, look, it is hurting. It is hurting. They've got major superstars that are out on the shelf or aren't wrestling right now for a variety of reasons. Of course, you've got Becky Lynch. She isn't competing. She's on maternity leave. She's due to give birth next month. You've got Ronda Rousey. She's still on her hiatus from WWE. You've got Charlotte Flair on the shelf as well, recovering from surgeries and injuries and things of that nature. I think she's going to be back soon. When, we don't know. That's the WrestleMania 35 main event. The first ever women's main event in the history of WrestleMania. All 3 competitors, they're not in right now. They're not working right now. That is such a blow. That is such a devastating blow to WWE. And then you've got people like Chelsea Green. She makes her debut on SmackDown Friday. She gets injured. She's out. They've just released Zelina Vega. So that's another SmackDown superstar gone. Another SmackDown superstar in the women's division gone. So WWE, they're hurting. They are hurting in the women's division. Obviously, that's not to state that WWE doesn't have a lot of talent when it comes to female wrestlers in WWE, because they absolutely do. But the strength in depth that previously was there when it comes to the women's division in WWE just isn't there right now. Maybe in a year's time, 18 months' time, you get some of those names back, it will be fine. Nevertheless, right now, at this very moment, they are struggling for that strength and depth when it comes to superstars in the women's division. Mandy Rose, she got taken out of the Survivor Series match last night on Raw because she's injured as well. Sonya Deville, we don't know when she's going to be back. Obviously, she's got the court case and that kind of deal going on. So WWE, for a variety of reasons, that strength and depth that was there 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, isn't there right now. And obviously, there is a lot of talent when it comes to WWE's women's division in developmental, but Are they ready to go straight to Raw and SmackDown? Are they ready to go straight in the ring and compete with the likes of Sasha Banks, Bayley, Asuka? Are they ready to jump straight into that fire? I don't know if they are. When you see someone like Taya Valkyrie becomes available, Taya Valkyrie fills that spot. She absolutely can go straight to Raw, straight to SmackDown. She can go straight into Women's Championship programs against the likes of Sasha Banks, against the likes of Bayley, Asuka. She plugs that hole. She really does. She's exactly the kind of talent that WWE knows if that's coming available, we need to throw some money at her and try and sign her. Because we don't have the strength and depth that we had 12 months ago, 18 months ago. We just don't. So they would certainly be interested. I have no doubt in my mind that WWE is and would be interested in signing Taya Valkyrie if she does indeed let her contract expire or she becomes available. And you've got to remember as well, if her contract expires in December, there's no 90-day non-compete clause. She will be ready to go and ready to debut straight away. As I mentioned, she would be ready to step into Raw and SmackDown immediately. And that can't be understated about how important that is. Now, obviously, with contracts expiring, people will say, well, what about AEW? AEW, of course, their women's division needs talent. It obviously does need talent. But the main issue when it comes to AEW's women's division goes way beyond that. It's not a talent issue or anything like that. It's not the fact they don't have great talent, because I think the AEW women's division has really good talent. It really does. Their issue when it comes to their women's division has almost nothing to do with talent. Their issue is far beyond that. Their issue is that the AEW higher-ups, for whatever reason, have no idea how to book women's wrestling and quite frankly don't care about booking women's wrestling. They don't care to invest time and money into women's wrestling. They'll deny that, of course they'll deny that, but the facts are there. You have the token women's match every week on Dynamite, and I feel like I'm repeating myself because I talk about this so often, but it's so important because you've got to put the pressure on AEW. You have to put the pressure on them because they're not living up to what they should be doing when it comes to women's wrestling. They talk about being this really super progressive new company, which they absolutely are, offering an alternative, being competition, being fresh, new, and then you look at their women's division, and it's a sack of crap. It is. And it's not the talent's fault. It isn't the talent's fault. They have good talent there. But the booking in that division is horrific. It's horrendous. The idea of women's wrestling in AEW is just horrendous. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work because the higher-ups don't care for it to work. They don't invest time in it to make it work. You have one women's match per Dynamite. It's 5 minutes long. It's never in a prominent segment. You have one storyline going on in AEW at any time when it comes to the women's wrestling. That's it. That is it. You have one women's match per pay-per-view. If it's two, one's on the buy-in. Every time, without fail, that's how it works. That's how it works when it comes to women's wrestling in AEW. And the excuses of they're a young company, or we've got young wrestlers, or we're only 18 months old as a company, give it time, that's BS, okay? Because every other division, every other facet of that show is great. It's great, and it does get time. It's just a lack of attention is paid to the women's division, because in their mind, it's not important. That's it. That is the fact of the matter. So if you're Taya Valkyrie and your contract is expiring, to be quite frankly, if you were any female talent and your contract was expiring in WWE or Impact, why would you want to go to AEW? Why? Why would you go to AEW? If you're in Impact Wrestling or WWE, you get more ring time, you get more TV time, you get more storylines. And if you're in Impact, you just get better wrestling because they've got better wrestlers there because they know that's the place to go if you're a female wrestler, that or WWE. AEW can't even do a woman's storyline, let alone run an entire division. And I understand the argument might be, well, maybe Taya Valkyrie going to AEW can spur them on, and maybe Taya Valkyrie is exactly what the women's division need. But to be honest, I'm tired of saying that about people at this point. I'm tired of saying Thunder Rosa is exactly what AEW needs, or Serena Deeb is exactly the talent AEW should be hiring, or Allysin Kay is exactly what AEW is looking for, because it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that when it comes to women's wrestling and AEW, because they don't care. They just don't care. Like I said, you have one women's match per show. It's short. When is the time that the AEW women's division is going to main event an episode of Dynamite? Because it certainly ain't going to be any time soon. Let alone main eventing a pay-per-view or a TV special. In Impact Wrestling, that happens all the time. Very regularly, they main event an episode of Impact. Very regularly. I mean, the TV special, Impact Emergence, it was Jordan Grace, Gianna Purrazzo on night 2. I mean, they're not scared to do it, whereas in AEW, they're terrified to do it. And credit to WWE, they're not scared to do it either. So I don't think she'll go to AEW. I really don't think she'll go to AEW, Taya Valkyrie. The only reason she would go to AEW is if they offered her a great deal. And if they do, look, we are in a pandemic. It's the current climate of time. Money is money. Business is business. If it's a great offer, it becomes difficult to turn down. But I really can't see her joining AEW because I think the only thing to convince her to go there would be money. That would be money. I don't want to sound like a mercenary, but that's just the situation. But when it comes to WWE, she could absolutely go to WWE, Taya Valkyrie. I think the best role for her right now, when it comes to WWE, imagine a faction with The Miz and John Morrison on Monday Night Raw. How interesting would that be? We know the success of when The Miz had a faction of Maurice, his wife there, and The Miz Taraj. Maybe you get sort of a newer, updated version where you've got The Miz, Morrison, and then you've got John Morrison's wife and Taya Valkyrie. Maybe Taya Valkyrie can get involved in that on Monday Night Raw, and then you help plug the gap, fill the void of not having Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, and Charlotte Flair, who are all Raw superstars, by the way. Maybe that's how you sort of plug that gap. You get Taya Valkyrie, and then you've got an extra body on Raw, and then you can feud with the likes of Asuka, Mia Yim, Naomi. Then you've got some big names to work with on Raw, especially while these other big names are out. And Taya Valkyrie, look, I think she's 37 years old. She's in the perfect point in her career that she's ready for that mainstream exposure. And yes, if she did leave Impact Wrestling, it would be a massive, massive loss. It would be a huge loss to Impact Wrestling, no doubt. Taya Valkyrie has done fantastic things on Impact Wrestling and has been one of the best female workers in the company. She is currently one of the best female workers in the company. She's certainly in that conversation of being the best female worker in Impact Wrestling right now. She's one of the best characters. She knows her character really well. So much so that it's bled over into creating Johnny Bravo, into having sort of a sidekick, which is then bled over into the whole Wrestle House series, which was based around Rosemary, Johnny Bravo, and Taya Valkyrie, which is then spilled over into the Johnny Bravo, Rosemary wedding, and then it bled over into the Who Shot Johnny Bravo gimmick and situation right now. All of that comes from the character of Taya Valkyrie being so strong that it creates a Johnny Bravo. That's exactly how strong the Taya Valkyrie character is, hence why it would be a massive, massive loss if she does leave Impact Wrestling. It would be a huge loss to Impact Wrestling because she is one of the best characters in the company and she is one of the most consistent workers. She really is. During her run with Impact, every single time she steps in the ring, she has a good match. And that is a lot to be said. Consistency is the key when it comes to pro wrestling. Knowing your character and being consistent. If you can consistently have great matches, and even going back to her time in Lucha Underground, her match with Brian Cage, I know some people have their opinions when it comes to intergender wrestling, but Taya Valkyrie's match with Brian Cage in Lucha Underground, if you haven't seen it, it's nuts. It's absolutely insane. She's crazy, but she's an unbelievable worker, and she's a high-level talent. Like I said, when it comes to WWE, I wouldn't be sending her to NXT or anything like that. No disrespect to NXT or anyone that's there. But given that she's 37 years old, given her quality in the ring, her ability to cut promos, to know her character, to work, and the gaps that are on the main roster in Raw and SmackDown right now, she should go straight in to Raw or SmackDown. She really should. Because she's one of the most consistent and high-level talents in Impact Wrestling right now. And as I mentioned, she absolutely could stay with Impact. There's no doubt. Just because her contract is expiring doesn't mean that she's leaving anytime soon. She could sign a new contract. She could sign one today or tomorrow, whenever. We don't know the situation right now when it comes to negotiations. You look at someone like Ethan Page, and we're going to talk about Ethan Page in another video that will go up on the channel soon. Ethan Page has spoken about it before when his contract expires at the same time as Taya Valkyrie, and he's been very open saying, I am speaking to other companies. Impact has allowed me to speak to other companies, but Impact Wrestling comes first. I want a good offer from Impact Wrestling. If they give me a good offer, I'll stay. I'm happy here, and I want to stay. Impact Wrestling is my priority, but they've also been very gracious and accommodating to allow me to speak to other companies. Of course, he's not going to name them, but that means WWE and AEW. And I'm assuming it would probably be the same situation with Taya Valkyrie. Impact would allow her to speak to other companies, but I would think that they do that with the assumption and the agreement, you speak to us first, we can give you an offer, and if it's what you're happy with, then you can stay. So this news has kind of come out of nowhere. I hadn't heard much about Taya Valkyrie's contract. Of course, everyone knows the situation when it comes to Ethan Page. Everyone has known Ethan Page's contract is expiring for at least the last sort of 6 months or so. I mean, I've been doing videos about Ethan Page's contract for a while here on the channel, so it's nothing new when it comes to Ethan Page, but Taya Valkyrie's contract expiring did kind of come out of left field a bit, and maybe there have been negotiations. As I mentioned, I'm assuming, given the level of talent that she is, and given how important the Knockouts division is to Impact Wrestling, and that they're bringing back the Knockouts Tag Team Championships, and they're investing more time, more money, more storylines into the Knockouts division, and Taya Valkyrie is a key part of that and a key part of other major angles right now in Impact Wrestling. I'm sure there have been discussions and talks about, okay, what do you want to do to stay here? How do we keep you here? Do you want to talk to other people first? You can get an offer there, then you can show us what that offer is, that kind of deal. That's what I think is going on right now. But obviously, we'll find out more in the coming weeks, because if she doesn't win the tournament, or her and Rosemary do go out in the first round of the tournament, then we kind of know where this is going. And as I mentioned, when it comes to the Johnny Bravo stuff, we'll have to see where that plays out as well. We saw at Turning Point, was it the gun was found on Johnny Swinger, in Johnny Swinger's luggage, or whatever that was. Maybe that's a case of Taya Valkyrie planting it on him. Who knows? We'll have to see how all of that plays out. I think we'll probably find out more about that towards the end of the year, which would factor in as to when Taya Valkyrie's contract with Impact Wrestling expires anyway. We'll have to see if she gets written off of TV. As I mentioned, if it's involved with the Johnny Bravo storyline, you can sort of send her to jail, or Tommy Dreamer investigates, find out it's her, and she gets written off of TV or something like that. And there's no doubt here, there is no doubt here that Taya Valkyrie, she's going to have a ton of options available to her. As I mentioned, WWE would absolutely be interested. She's got the ties to the company with John Morrison there. I'm sure people will probably have asked John Morrison, what's the situation when it comes to Taya right now? Is she interested? Is she going to sign with Impact? Is she willing to come to another company? AEW would love to have Taya Valkyrie in their company because they desperately need a good women's division. Taya Valkyrie coming in doesn't fix that. What fixes that is people's ideologies when it comes to AEW actually including women's wrestling in their planning, actually having long-term storylines, multiple matches on the show. So Taya Valkyrie doesn't improve that. What improves that is a greater mindset when it comes to the AEW women's division. That's just the case there. So I wouldn't be shocked if AEW and WWE are interested. They are interested. It's just a fact of the matter. When someone that quality and that high profile becomes available, you have talks, and I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if she already has talks or have held talks with people in WWE and AEW, because every wrestler does that. Now that there is a higher level of competition when it comes to promotions that you can go to and make good money, whether it is WWE, AEW, Impact, even Ring of Honor or wherever, every wrestler, when their contract is coming up, they talk to people, and then they get an offer from, say, an AEW, and then they can go to WWE as to, look, this is what they're offering me, or they can go to AEW and say, this is what Impact's offering me, whatever. And in this, especially in this period of time in 2020, you need to get the best deal that's right for you in terms of finances, in terms of happiness, in terms of dates, all of that kind of stuff. So it's no surprise that she's probably negotiating with all of these companies. And even in this pandemic, even in this current climate, fortunately for her, there are options for her. She's not tied down. It's not a case of, well, if I've only got Impact, I can't go to anywhere else. Any company would be wanting and willing to have her as part of their roster. So I have no doubt that she'll get a good deal, and she'll get exactly what she deserves. And when it comes to her time in Impact Wrestling, you do have to question, and maybe this is a thought in her mind right now, is realistically, what is there for me to do in Impact right now? What is left for me to do? She's the longest reigning Knockouts champion of all time, 377 days. Now, just because she is the longest reigning Knockouts champion of all time, that doesn't mean she can't have aspirations to win it again. Maybe she has aspirations to win it the most times in the company's history. I think she's got to win it like 6 or 7 more times to match Gail Kim's record. But she maybe be thinking, well, I've kind of done the Knockouts championship. Again, it depends what happens when it comes to the tag team championships. Maybe she'll want to stay now and become the inaugural Knockouts tag team champions, since those titles returned back in January. But there is a legitimate question for her right now as to, what do I do? What do I do in Impact Wrestling right now? I feel like I've achieved quite a lot during my time here, and what do I do? Personally, I hope she stays. I do hope she stays. I think, as I mentioned before, the Knockouts division is the cornerstone of Impact Wrestling. It's the strongest, one of the strongest elements of the show. It's certainly something that differentiates them from the likes of AEW, and I think helps elevate them to a level of WWE is their investment in women's wrestling, their time they put into women's wrestling, the talent they have in their knockouts division is astounding, and Taya Valkyrie is a big part of that. As I mentioned, losing Taya Valkyrie would be a huge, huge blow, and I do hope she stays because I do think there's more for her to do, and I think she knows her character so well and it fits so well with Impact right now. And when it comes to keeping her from an Impact Wrestling sort of corporate point of view, Impact needs to keep the talent right now. They need talent in the door, not going out of it, because they're having a lot of departures and a lot of injuries right now. That's what's happening in Impact Wrestling. The Rascals are having their final match with Impact Wrestling tonight. They're expected to sign with WWE, so that's 3 names already out the door. Kylie Ray, we know that she's retired from professional wrestling. Whether or not you believe that eventually she'll be back, she isn't coming back for a long, long, long time. Personally, I do think she's retired, and I think she needs to do what's best for her. Now, she's still under an Impact Wrestling contract, but I don't think she's coming back anytime soon or ever. And she stated that she's retired, so that's another departure from the company. Heath is injured right now. We don't know the severity of his injury. He's on TV, but he's injured. Alex Shelley, he's out until 2021. He's got a neck injury. That's another injury. Ethan Page, his contract is expiring at the end of the year, the same time with Taya Valkyrie, so potentially he could be leaving at the end of the year. EC3, he's just finished up his commitments with the company as well after Bound for Glory. Doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. He's with Ring of Honor. I think eventually he'll end up in AEW, so EC3 isn't with Impact Wrestling, not that he really was, because he barely appeared actually in person. It was all vignettes and promos and that weird cinematic match in the undisclosed location. Nevertheless, it's one less body, it's a less person they can use for television time on Impact Wrestling going forward. Then before that, we had RVD and Katie Forbes. They're gone as well. And regardless of your opinions on any of those people that I just mentioned there, it's less people that they can get in the ring and actually create content with. And that's an issue. That's an issue. So Impact Wrestling need to try and sign up these people. If it's Ethan Page or Taya Valkyrie, they need to try and extend these contracts. I'm sure they are. But they need to, get some of that Anthem money and try and throw themselves at Taya Valkyrie and just say, whatever you want, well, we want you to stay. We need to try and keep you because we've got so many names going out the door right now. And this has been such a good year for Impact Wrestling in terms of Slammiversary and Bound for Glory and getting some positive momentum, getting people talking about them, trending worldwide when it comes to Slammiversary and trending in the United States when it comes to Slammiversary and Bound for Glory and record subscriptions on Impact Plus and on YouTube and all of that sort of stuff and the ratings going up on Access TV, all of that. You don't want to lose that by losing the roster. Look, people leaving the company, especially when it comes to Impact Wrestling, it's inevitable. Impact Wrestling, even though it has grown a little bit and it's got a better reputation inside the industry, it is still a stepping stone whether to go to WWE or AEW. It just is. But they need to try. They need to try their best to keep that talent, keep that core talent that has been so successful and so crucial to Impact Wrestling over the last few years. And with all of these people leaving or getting injured at the moment, re-signing people like Taya Valkyrie, like Ethan Page is just so important going forward. So maybe some of those names that we saw with like Renee Michelle, etc., coming in for that Knockouts Tag Team title tournament, maybe they're replacing Taya Valkyrie if she is leaving. Nevertheless, as I mentioned, we're certainly bound to find out more in the coming weeks, or at least towards the end of the year when a contract does expire. But what are your thoughts? What are your opinions about Taya Valkyrie's contract expiring at the end of the year? Do you think she'll stay? Do you think she'll go somewhere else? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and chatting about Impact Wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to leave a comment and I'll be sure to respond to it. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. It really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. So be sure to click that bottom right hand corner. We're doing a lot more watch alongs and daily videos on the channel, so click that bottom right hand corner, click the notification bell, and you won't miss a single video or live stream when we go live or when we post it. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak for you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.